welcome to Devils in the Details. I am your host, Annie DeGraw. Today, we are talking about the importance of financial literacy. April is National Financial Literacy Month, not just the month to pay your taxes, but to really consider what your short and your long-term goals are when it comes to finance. To meet the need of a growing demand for expertise in this area, the W.P. Carey School of Business at ASU has actually created a new program to help create customized financial planning for graduates and their families. One of the biggest advocates of this new program we actually have here with us today, Deborah Radway, who is a professor with the W.P. Carey School of Business, also a certified financial planner herself. Deborah, thank you so much for joining us today.
Nice to be here.
First question for you. Financial planning can seem like a very scary topic for a lot of different people. Why is it so important to really think about your financial literacy starting as early as you can?
Well, financial planning is one of the basic skills I think everybody needs to be successful in their life. And having your finances in order has a huge impact on your family's life and well-being. So the earlier that we can teach people about the basic principles of financial planning and personal finance in general, the better off they're going to be throughout their life.
I joke to people all the time that I have been planning for my retirement since I was 4 years old, but I'm actually not joking. I am ready to do it. But I hear this all the time that Americans, perhaps not as great at saving as we should be. Are the majority of Americans prepared for retirement? If not, how might they change course?
There have been a number of studies that have been done on this, and the results are mixed. Some studies show that about 3/4 of Americans are prepared, and some studies show that less people are prepared. A lot of it depends on your socioeconomic status, as well as whether you're married or single. And if you think about it, for those of you out there that are married, it's obviously easier to keep a household going when you're sharing rent and you're sharing some of the costs of everyday living. And it's more costly if you're living by yourself. So it really depends on what your situation is. But to prepare for retirement, there's really two things that people can do, and they could do it early. One is to actually participate in their retirement plan. The second is to become a homeowner, because surprisingly for a lot of individuals, the home becomes a mechanism to pay for some of the retirement costs in the later stages of retirement.
That's so fascinating because we hear this all the time, is that the American dream is home ownership, but really it's far more than what you're saying than just owning a plot of land. It's about building long-term equity. You're teaching students that a lot of what they need to be thinking about is constantly reevaluating financial goals. How often should we be looking at sort of our financial plans, both in the short and the long term?
The one thing that I recommend people do to really monitor and keep up on their finances is to prepare what I call a net worth report. And this is really a simple technique, and it is the basis for more detailed planning. But a simple net worth report, in it, you just list all your assets, everything you own, and you take out all the things that you owe, all your liabilities, credit cards, loans, etc. And you subtract what you owe from what you own, and you see, is it positive what's left over? Do you have a positive net worth, or is it negative? So something as simple as doing that and updating that quarterly or twice a year and reviewing it can really help a person make progress towards their financial goals, because they're actually seeing what's happening.
Just having that insight into sort of your own financial, whether liquidity. And I've recently realized, unfortunately, the clothes that I am buying in mass online during the pandemic do not actually count towards my overall financial wealth, unfortunately.
I don't think I'd include those as an asset, because no, probably not. Your house, yes. Your car, yes, but not the clothes, probably.
Well, see, now we've already taught something to the viewers. Can you tell me a little bit about some of these new courses that are being offered to students in W.P. Carey and what they're going to be learning?
So the program prepares a student to take the CFP exam to become a certified financial planner. They do not have to sit for the CFP exam, but it does prepare them for it. And they learn all the key aspects of financial planning, which include investments, estate planning, insurance, retirement planning, education planning, and taxes. So it's really very comprehensive. It's pretty much everything you need to know to work with clients and advise them effectively on their personal finances. And it ends with a capstone course. And in the capstone course, what we do is we go through the financial planning process for some representative clients. So we go through about 7 cases of different clients and discuss what are their challenges, what do we need to address, what are their strengths and weaknesses.
It's interesting that we're talking about college students, obviously, and preparing them for the next stage in their life. But more and more often, I hear from individuals younger than me that they want more financial literacy understanding earlier in their life, in their teens and even younger than that. Why is there this growing demand for financial literacy that we see out in our communities?
Part of it is, we've changed as a country in a few ways. When my grandparents or parents were younger, there were pension plans in place. So you went to work for an employer, you'd work for them for 30 years, and when you retired, you'd have a pension that would bridge that period of time you were in retirement. Those have gone away pretty much for most of us, unless you are a state employee or a union worker. So now we're pretty much on our own to prepare for retirement. And I think young people are becoming aware of that, and they want to think about preparing for retirement earlier. And then the second trend, I think, honestly, is the marriage trend. In the 80s, I had a student just do a research project on this, but in the 80s, a lot of people would get out of college or get out of high school and get married. And you'd have 2 incomes forming a household. Now, a lot of people are waiting much longer to get married. And there are economies of scale, as I talked about, by being married. And so it's just a little bit more challenging for them to purchase a home on their own, save for retirement. So I think those 2 trends, hearing people talk about it is, putting more emphasis on financial literacy.
And that's fascinating because I think sometimes people hear financial literacy and they sort of think like, whoop, that's over my head, but it's so interconnected to societal changes and changes in our culture. Last question for you, Professor, today. What is the one financial planning myth that you would like to bust for our viewers?
For young people, I think I'm going to break it into 2 groups, if you'll let me.
Please.
For young people, I think the biggest myth is that they can't save for retirement because of student loans. There are a lot of different ways to pay off student loans. There are a lot of different types of payment plans available. So having student loans does not necessarily prevent a young person from starting to save for retirement right away. So that's probably one myth, and that's for college educated individuals that I'm focused on. For older people that are close to retirement, I think one of my biggest concerns or the myths is that they need to take Social Security at 62. A lot of people make this mistake because it's available at 62. They claim Social Security at 62. There's a big reduction in your Social Security benefits if you claim it at 62 instead of waiting until age 67. And it hurts the payouts for the entire life of an individual's retirement. So I think that's a big myth, that people do not spend enough time looking at what would be the best age for me to claim Social Security benefits. Because Social Security ends up being a large part of retirement benefits, especially for the lower and middle income Americans.
And that's fascinating because that's 2 myths sort of at 2 different spectrums of your life, and just another example of why individuals should be constantly reevaluating goals and looking at their financial long-term health. Professor, I want to thank you so much for joining us today. This was extremely enlightening. And to all of our viewers out there, thank you for joining us as well. Stay safe and be healthy.